Welcome to the deep dive. Media Day arrived this year, and wow,
Yeah.
it was definitely not the usual routine, was it? Not just staged photos and predictable quote.
No, not at all. It felt like a floodgate opened. Just immediate, season-altering news, contract stuff, injuries, some pretty revealing comments.
Exactly, like
Yeah.
confessions almost.
Yeah.
We saw major developments from, what, 5 key teams that have just completely shifted the landscape before training camp even properly kicked off.
Yeah, it was a pretty chaotic news cycle, which honestly is perfect for what we do here. Our mission today is really to unpack the real story behind all those press releases and sound bites.
Right.
What does all this stuff, the contract gambles, the health issues, these identity shifts, what does it actually mean for these teams' seasons? And, for you listening, trying to figure out who's legit this year.
We're cutting through the spin, finding those core nuggets you need.
Yeah.
And we absolutely have to start with the most dramatic story. Honestly, it's devastating news that dropped right away.
Yeah.
The Houston Rockets.
Oh, man.
They got hit so hard just before camp, finding out their big veteran signing, their floor general, Fred VanVleet, torn ACL, likely out for the entire season.
Ugh, you just can't overstate that loss. It's huge.
It really is.
And look, this is more than just losing a player, right? For a young team like Houston trying to make that jump into actually winning games, this is a leadership crisis. VanVleet was signed for two big reasons. Yes, the spacing, the shooting, which, believe me, they desperately needed, and now that's gone. But maybe even more critically,
The veteran leadership.
exactly. The guy who commands respect in the locker room from day one. The voice demanding execution, accountability. That's just not something you can easily replace with who they have on the roster right now.
And that leadership vacuum, it just creates this massive ripple effect, doesn't it? It throws their young guys immediately into the deep end.
Into the fire.
You think about Thompson specifically. Suddenly, the expectations for his year 3 leap are like sky high. He has to speed up that process, tighten the handle, use that superb playmaking vision he clearly has. But do it now, under pressure.
And don't forget, Sheppard. Totally unproven rookie, really. Now he might be thrust into a starting point guard role way, way sooner than anyone planned.
Yeah, that's a tough ask.
And here's where it gets even trickier, compounding the problem. The financial constraints they're under are brutal.
Okay, let's pause on that, because not everyone listening is, deep in the CBA weeds. What does being hard-capped at the first apron actually mean for them in this situation?
It means they have basically zero wiggle room. None. The first apron, it's like a hard line in the sand for team payroll. If you go over it, you lose access to key team-building tools.
Like the mid-level exception.
Yep, that's one. But crucially for them right now, it means you cannot sign a free agent to a veteran minimum contract. Not even to fill a spot opened up by an injury like VanVleet's.
Wow. So even if a solid vet point guard is sitting out there willing to sign for the minimum, they literally can't sign him.
Their hands are completely tied. They can't just bring in some steady, experienced backup to calm things down.
So basically, until trades become more feasible around, December 15th, when guys signed this summer can be moved, like maybe Capella or Jeff Green. Until then, this is their roster, full stop.
Correct. They are built as is, no external pivots possible right now.
Is there any silver lining here?
Well, maybe. Look, this crisis forces an immediate commitment to an identity, right? They have to lean fully into Alperen Sengun now as the main offensive hub. Maximize his passing, his scoring inside.
Double down on that size and defense they built for this offseason.
Exactly. It's trial by fire for Thompson and Sheppard, no doubt. But it absolutely dictates the team's focus. They have no choice but to embrace that identity.
Okay, so the Rockets kind of lost control due to circumstances. Let's shift to players actively fighting to keep control. We got to talk about Brooklyn and Cam Thomas.
Ah, yes. Cam Thomas.
He finally broke his silence on that whole failed contract negotiation. And his actions, specifically taking the qualifying offer, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Oh, it screams departure. Loudly. Accepting the one-year, $6 million qualifying offer, the QO, it's almost always a signal. Historically, players who take it, they're planning to walk, become an unrestricted free agent next summer.
It's all about leverage.
Purely transactional, designed to keep power in his own hands.
And the most fascinating part, for me, is the money he left on the table. Reports say the Nets offered a one-year deal worth $9.5 million. He turned down an extra $3.5 million.
Right.
Specifically to keep his no-trade clause that comes with the QO.
And that sacrifice, that's not just about money, it's a strategic move. By keeping that no-trade clause, he's basically saying, I expect you to shop me this season, And I want to say in where I might end up.
So he anticipates being traded.
Clearly. And look, the Nets side of this is also clear. They were obviously hesitant to give him long-term money. They seem to view him as that diminishing archetype, the pure score-first guard.
Like a Lou Williams or Jamal Crawford type. Great scorer, but...
But maybe not a winning cornerstone in today's game, in their eyes. They weren't willing to offer him more than something like the mid-level exception long-term.
And then you get to media day, and the personality clash just feels undeniable. He's asked straight up if he needs to maybe reevaluate his game, change his approach to get that bigger deal, and he just says flat out no.
Yeah, that no was loud. I mean, look, you could argue he's betting on himself, right? Maybe he thinks the Nets do need his kind of shot creation regardless of league trends.
Maybe.
But if his game hasn't really evolved beyond that isolation scoring, which is what the Nets are signaling with their valuation, and he's openly refusing to adjust, then Brooklyn's calculation isn't going to change. This whole QO situation feels like the prelude to a divorce. It's just a matter of when.
Okay, staying in New York, but moving over to the Knicks. Another controlled drama, this time centered on health. Josh Hart.
Ah, the finger injury.
Re-aggravated, yeah. He's going to wear a splint, and he admitted, quote, "I hate playing with anything on my hands."
That quote alone immediately raises a huge red flag for me, especially because we saw him struggle badly through the second half of last season with that runner's knee.
Right. It clearly impacted his efficiency, his burst. He wasn't the same player.
Exactly. So you see a pattern here, potentially. Is it pride over practical health decisions? That's the concern.
And it forces this really tough question, doesn't it, for him and the team. Should the prideful Josh Hart just tough it out, play through it with the splint, and risk, a whole season of inefficiency like last year?
Or is the smarter play, the more team-oriented decision maybe to get the surgery now, miss, 15, 20 games? But then be 100% healthy for the playoff push, which is supposed to be the main goal for this Knicks team.
It's a big strategic fork in the road for them.
And his health, specifically his hand health, is absolutely critical for what Mike Brown is trying to install offensively.
An offensive scheme, yeah.
Brown's system, from everything we're hearing, it emphasizes pace, playing fast, getting out in transition, and specifically generating what they're calling spray threes.
Okay, spray threes. Break that down for us. What does that actually mean?
So think of it as a specific type of catch-and-shoot look generated by motion, usually in transition or semi-transition. They want to run Jalen Brunson off screens, force the defense to react, maybe collapse a bit, and then the ball gets kicked out or sprayed out quickly, off into the corners, for an open three-point shot. They need guys ready to catch and fire immediately.
So shooters like Deuce McBride, OG Anunoby, and Hart.
And Hart, exactly. Healthy, capable shooters who can make quick decisions. Now, if you're wearing a splint or your grip is compromised, that directly impacts the speed and the accuracy of that catch-and-shoot motion.
That slows everything down.
It potentially undermines that whole philosophy of playing fast and using the corners effectively. You need guys who can reliably knock those down without hesitation.
Makes sense. Okay, let's pivot now. Talk about transformation and identity. And we got to start down in New Orleans with the Pelicans.
Yes.
Zion Williamson.
Yes, the Zion watch.
He showed up to media day looking, by all accounts, just incredible. Trey Murphy III had that quote saying, "Zion looks slimmer than I have ever seen him."
Yeah, the physical change is undeniable. You see the pictures, the videos. He looks fantastic. But the real revelation, I think, wasn't just physical. It felt mental, foundational.
How so?
Well, Zion himself said it feels good to feel good. He admitted he hasn't felt this consistently, this healthy, since maybe high school or his year at Duke.
Wow.
And he talked about how he got there. It wasn't just hitting the weights. It was varied workouts, boxing, stuff on the football field, a different approach to conditioning.
And a huge catalyst seems to be what people are calling the Joe Dumars effect. Zion specifically praised the GM, Joe Dumars, for providing really direct, consistent accountability. He said he felt embraced, felt like they believed in him, and his response was basically, "I'm not going to let you all down."
That's a massive psychological shift. You have Dumars, a former champion player, a successful exec. He can communicate maybe on a different level, honest, direct. And clearly, Zion responded to that.
It felt personal, not just organizational.
Exactly. And it's not just talk. Remember, even in the limited games he played last year, there were signs of improved defensive commitment. The Pelicans were actually 3.1 points better defensively per 100 possessions when Zion was on the court.
Interesting.
So that dedication to his overall health, that varied training, it can translate directly to having the stamina for better defensive impact. It's all connected.
Okay, last stop. Let's head out to Phoenix. The Suns. They seem to be searching for a really cohesive identity under this relatively new regime, right? Ishbia as owner, Brian Gregory as GM.
Yeah, the front office is definitely trying to establish a specific brand, and it's very clear what they want. Tough, physical, hard-nosed, that's the mantra. Very gritty. They're explicitly moving away from maybe a smaller, more skill-focused lineup towards one built around length and defense. They've apparently set a target of being a top 12 defense this year.
So that's the vision.
That's Brian Gregory's stamp, I think. He wants toughness, maybe over pure finesse sometimes.
The question that kind of lingers for me is, was this tough defensive identity always the grand plan? Or did the roster end up somewhat, well, thrown together after those massive trades for Durant and Beal? Did they have to pivot to this because of the personnel?
That's the really sharp insight, I think, because while the identity they're aiming for is clear now, the roster construction was absolutely somewhat reactionary. Like you make those huge moves, bringing in superstar talent like KD and Booker and now Beal. You sacrifice depth, you limit your flexibility. So in a way, they almost had to pivot towards a defense-first, tougher identity because they might not have the depth or the right pieces to just outscore everyone playing finesse basketball for 48 minutes.
So the identity becomes a necessity born from the roster limits.
Pretty much dictated by the configuration, yeah.
Okay, so regardless of how they got here, making it cohesive is the challenge now. Devin Booker is back to being the clear #1 scorer, presumably.
De facto #1, yeah.
And the biggest dynamic to watch, maybe, is the chemistry with Jalen Green. Here's a guy, super talented, highly touted, then basically gets dumped by the Rockets after having his best statistical year. What version of Jalen Green shows up in Phoenix?
That's the million-dollar question, because it's all about role definition now, isn't it? In Houston, Green had the ball a lot. He played with supreme confidence. Some sources might have even called it conceited at times. Now, he's playing next to Booker, next to Durant, next to Beal. He's being forced into a much more specific, likely off-ball, spot-up shooting role. That's a huge adjustment.
Can he accept that?
Will we see an evolved version? That humble maturity you sometimes need to thrive as a third or fourth option after believing you were the guy. His success there hinges entirely on embracing that more limited role. And frankly, that's a massive mental challenge for a player with his background and previous usage.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, we've tracked these different narratives today. You've got the Rockets losing control because of a devastating injury.
Right. Then Cam Thomas fighting tooth and nail for contractual control, betting on himself.
Then Zion finally embracing personal control over his health and career trajectory.
And the Suns kind of scrambling to define their identity, trying to impose control through a specific style of play.
It really feels like this season, right from Media Day, is being defined by players either embracing or maybe rejecting these huge new responsibilities, these moments of control.
Absolutely. What we're seeing laid bare is just how much leverage things like personal responsibility, health, and contract status hold over modern team building. The question now becomes, which type of control ultimately pays off faster?
Is it the internal dedication, that commitment we're seeing from Zion? Or is it the external contractual leverage play like Cam Thomas is making? Which one leads quicker to real contention?
That's the debate.
And maybe a final thought to leave people with. If health and control are truly paramount, which team, maybe looking at the Pelicans and the Knicks, made the smarter bet on their star players' personal decision-making this offseason?
Ooh, interesting question.
Is it Zion's radical all-in commitment to getting his body right? Or is it potentially Josh Hart's prideful choice to play through an injury that could impact the whole season? Which bet do you think pays off?
That's definitely something to chew on as the actual games get closer. Whose personal gamble yields better results for the team?
That's our deep dive for today. Be sure to check out our other episodes.